Hi guys, it's Kian. Today I wanted to rank all the dolls that I really wanted since I started this hobby. I originally wanted to make this video about Grail dolls, but then I started listing the dolls that sort of made it into this category, and then I realized that I wasn't really sure what I meant by a Grail doll, and so let me just go into it first. So from Den of Angels, the definition of Grail doll is a term used when a doll is earnestly pursued or sought after, and the doll doesn't need to be expensive or limited. So I guess in a way these are all technically Grail dolls at some point in my 11, 12? In my 13 years of collecting. So in my head, I don't categorize some of these dolls as Grail dolls. I'm not very sure what makes the cut for a Grail doll in my head, but I guess this whole list is just full of dolls that at some point I really wanted and I kept thinking about. So some of these dolls I did own at one point in time, or I currently still own, and then there are some of these dolls that I never did get to buy and may not want to own at any point now. So I guess for me, the idea I have in my head of a Grail doll is that it's a doll that I really wanted, but at that point in time it was really difficult for me to buy it. So in my particular situation, because I started off the hobby as a student, I didn't have a lot of money to spend on dolls, and like a lot of the times the stuff that I wanted would be limited and then it will sell out, and then I obviously didn't have the money to pay for it during the time period. So a lot of the dolls I wanted at a certain point in time were just like limited dolls that I couldn't buy. So I think that is kind of what makes a Grail doll in my mind, and maybe like as I started working and my ability, like the amount of money I have to spend on like leisure and on dolls increased, I didn't really consider a lot of dolls as Grails anymore, because it was kind of like I could buy them now and I didn't have to like keep saving up for it, and because I couldn't have it, then I kept saving up for it. I guess I kept pining after them. So I think that is kind of like what cemented in my head the feeling of this is a Grail doll versus like this is not a Grail doll. So as I go down the list, I'll tell you which of this in my head I still categorize as a Grail doll. And yeah, I've spoken long enough, let's just go into the ranking. Number 1 on this list is Luts L. So Luts L is, I guess, a doll that was just super versatile. I really wanted him when I first started the hobby. He was not the first doll that I bought. Mainly just because he was really common, and also like I didn't want a common doll. But I'm gonna rank him now based on whether I would still get him now. And as much as he is a classic and I think he will still be really cool in white skin or like tan, I don't see him having a space in my collection anymore, so I'm gonna put him in B. Okay, next one, Luts Lishe. As you know, I got the Dreaming Lishe as my first doll, so I'm kind of biased here, but also like it's a bit weird because sometimes I think of the Dreaming sculpt and the Open Eye sculpt like together in the same space. So I have the Dreaming one, but I do not have the Open Eye one, and I guess that makes it a bit different. Anyway, would I still own a Lishe if I didn't have Gabby? At this point in time, I guess no, but I do own one at the moment, so I'm gonna put him in B, and I'm gonna move L down to C. Okay, next, Luts Chiwoo. So I'm kind of going down in a chronological order, roughly based on like the order that I really wanted these dolls. So there would be a bit of like just, general timeline stuff, like, you know, some of the dolls in the earlier part of this list are going to be like much older dolls, and some of the ones in the later part are going to be like later, more recent releases. So Luts Chiwoo, funnily enough, right, I think at some point I realized that Wushu actually looks cuter, but when I first got into the hobby, Wushu was already sold out, so the only one I knew of was Chiwoo because he was still on the website, and I was like, he's pretty cute. I'm gonna put him in D. I am not a fan of like the very boyish cute face nowadays. I still think like one of those streaming ones might be a cute doll to like maybe face up or like whatever one day, but I would not want to own one as a character. Luts Breakaway. So the first 4 of these are all Luts dolls, which if you've watched my Luts ranking video, you roughly have a sense. Actually, I'm not sure whether my ranks here are similar to what I ranked in that previous video, but I would hope so. I hope I'm a consistent person in this regard. But like, it's just because like when I was really young, I just really liked Luts. I wasn't even really that young. I was like 15, 16? Anyway, Breakaway. Really, really cute. Again, like, not a doll that I particularly would want to own nowadays, but I'm kind of in a space where like, if given a chance to paint him or fix up a Breakaway like somebody else's doll, or like even just like maybe a project doll that like I eventually sell off or whatever, I would like that chance, but I mean, it's kind of hard to get a Breakaway, and it doesn't quite make out finances wise, so I'm gonna put him in B, similar to Lishe, cause yeah. Okay, next. BJD Homme, Ducan, Dream of Doll. So a company that was super popular back in the days and has since closed and shut down. But I remember that Homme Ducan was super popular back in the days, and like recently I feel like in the secondhand market there has been a weird resurgence of like people who are really looking for DoD dolls. It feels a bit stupid calling it DoD dolls because there's already a doll at the end, but yeah, there are people who are back looking for Dream of Dolls, and like their scalps, and it's kind of like I wonder whether it would be a bit like the loot stealth trend. Anyway, I think I fell out of this one pretty quickly, even back in the days. I think like I still really wanted loots for like a good like 2-3 years, since I first discovered them, and then for like Ducan, I think within the first year of like knowing about Ducan, I really wanted him for a while, and then after that I was like, nah. So he is going in to like E, just because of like how quickly I fell out of love with him, which is kind of sad, right, if you think about it. So the 6th one on this list is Kdoll Karon. Kdoll is still a company that exists. I think their style has kind of changed over the years. Back in the days when I first heard of them, they were really quite a small company. I think the dolls were mostly hand-casted by the artists. It wasn't easy to get the doll basically because there was like very few pre-orders, or like there was rarely any pre-orders. I really like Karon, and like nowadays even when I see them pop up once in a while on the marketplace, I'll still be like, but I've not bought them, even though I've seen them come out on the marketplace, just because I guess I don't want it nowadays, but I still really appreciate like the eyes, the nose, like the way it's generally sculpted. And I think Karon in particular, more than like let's say QU, and by the way, I have no idea what's the difference between like first, second, and third QU. I'm sure there's a difference, I think. But I really like Karon, and like I think some of the similarities in the sculpt was what made me kind of like Doll Group as a company later in the years, like relative to Karon. So like in terms of timeline, this is like I was maybe still like 16, something like that, 15, 16. So yeah, I think just based on longevity of how I still find Karon a pretty appealing sculpt, even though I don't necessarily want to own one, I'm gonna put him in like C, so it's like same rank as L. Next, SNG Hyul. So SNG Hyul SNG is the company that basically it's the same company as Switch. This is just the name that they had before Switch. I also have a Switch ranking video for all the sculpts. You can check it out in the top of the video. But similar to Karon, I still really appreciate like all the sculpting points, like the kind of like more button nose and like the dreaming eyes, or like the, I can't remember whether he's single eyelid, but like the fact that there's a lot of eyelid space above his eyelid for painting, because like if you see Luts Delves, which was like kind of the more common dolls at that point in time, had very little eyelid space. So yeah, I kind of appreciate that. I appreciate that sculpting. I'm gonna put him in C, just like Karon, and we'll move on to the next one, which is Esthy Peroth, or the company is now Distant Memory instead of just Esthy. Esthy. Esthy is the name of the artist. This was like a long time ago when they only made certain heads, and then slowly it became a company. So when I got into the hobby, I think there was already like the first run of Peroth has like already been sold out a long time ago, like a few years prior to when I entered the hobby, and they were very limited and hard to get. Most Peroth was selling at like around 300 USD, and it was really difficult to get. And then after they became Distant Memory, they did a re-release of Peroth with Nobility Doll back in around 2012, I think, or 2013, something like that. And that was when I got my Distant Memory Peroth, who is Joe. And I know that there's some differences between the sculpt from when it was the first release of Peroth under SD, when it was still an artist sculpt, and after that through Nobility Doll. The Nobility Doll version, the re-released Peroth version, has a softer philtrum. Is that what you call that, like dent above your lip? But yeah, he has a softer philtrum, and I guess in a way I own the sculpt, but I don't have the original Peroth, who has a much more sharper kind of feature of his philtrum. Maybe it's a trend, maybe it's a look that isn't as in trend nowadays. I do like the slightly softer look of the Peroth that I do own. But yeah, I think one thing that I do appreciate a lot about Peroth, besides the fact that he has a very nice nose, is kind of like he is a sculpt that I feel really like he fit in with the aesthetics back in like 2008, 2009, and even now, in 2022, I think he still relatively fits in with like the kind of like Switch kind of sculpting vibes. Of course, not like the very small 75cm boys, but it's kind of amazing to think about how Peroth is a sculpt that is so versatile and has like lasted throughout the years. I again could be super biased because, like I said, this whole list is just full of dolls that I really like. So obviously I'm gonna be very biased, but I think Peroth is a very lasting sculpt, if that makes sense. I enjoy the fact that he fits in with both old school vibes, but also isn't awkward around new dolls. So I'm gonna put him in A. Also, like I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm gonna tell you which of these are my Grail dolls, and Esthy Peroth is definitely one of my Grail dolls. One of the dolls that I considered as a Grail, and like every time I think of Cho, I'm just like, he is a side character, basically, but I just like this doll too much. Even though I actually don't do that much with him, because like character-wise, there's nothing much to do with him, but I reshelled him 4 times, I think. Yeah, he went through, I think, 3 or 4 characters before he became Joe, and like it was just because I really wanted to just keep the sculpt no matter what, because he was so difficult to buy. So yeah. If there's nobody else above Peroth, I might shift him to an S tier later, but for now I'm just gonna keep him in A for just so we have some space to play with. Okay, the 9th doll on this list. There's like, by the way, 29 dolls on this list. The 9th doll on this list is Volks Amelia, as a boy. Volks Amelia was always meant to be Danny. So if you know Danny, Danny is currently my Volks Olivia boy, and Volks Olivia is number 10 on this ranking list, as in number 10 is the next doll that I'm gonna rank. So let's just talk about both of them together. So I kind of look at Volks Amelia and Volks Olivia as like very similar but different sculpts. It's mainly their eye shape, but they kind of give me a similar vibe if you do the same kind of face up that I did on Danny, which is like starey, dark eye makeup, kind of smirky kind of vibe. So that was the kind of look for dolls that I really liked when I fell in love with dolls. I think this is also probably around the period where I really like Belladonna, Morbid's doll. I might be remembering the username wrongly, but like Garden of Moons, all these kind of owners. There was also, I'll put up the pictures of the dolls that the owners that I don't remember the name of, but I have in my head. But yeah, so this was the period where like I guess kind of emo-ish boys was really popular, like just in general subculture, I mean general internet culture, not just doll culture. And then like I was really into that whole emo look, which if you see Sion you can kind of understand. But like Sion aside, right, I also really liked these Volks girls sculpts as boys. And like till now, Volks Amelia is still on the top of my Grail list, but I also don't think it's a doll that I would ever buy now, because I have a Volks Olivia, who is Danny, who has, taken over the spot, because Volks Amelia was meant to be Danny back when I really wanted that doll. And like Volks Olivia was meant to be Freddy, who is a girl. And like, cause that character, that storyline of with Freddy never really worked out, and I couldn't really find a suitable female body that was like muscular for Freddy. It just never worked out, and I decided to reshell my Olivia head from Freddy to Danny. And like now I don't have a reason to ever get a Volks Amelia head for Danny, because I already have a suitable enough sculpt, which is Olivia. And also Olivia was in my Grail list for a really long time, but I originally really wanted this head for Freddy. So yeah, it's a bit strange. But I think they are similar. Amelia and Olivia are similar enough that I don't feel a need to buy an Amelia now that I have an Olivia. But of course, I think part of it is also the fact that Volks dolls are really expensive even after so many years. And like most Amelias nowadays still go for like really crazy amounts, like at least 500 USD. Unless it doesn't have a certificate, in which case I feel a bit iffy to buy, just because of like the whole recast issues. Like, even if I have sufficient reason to believe that the doll I'm buying is real, if there's no certificate like the booklet that the doll comes with, or there's no box or whatever, it's a bit difficult to sell the doll next time. So like it really puts me off wanting to buy this hit. And the fact that like I think Amelia hasn't been re-released in like forever, so all the Amelias that are out there are like really old, and the condition of the doll really depends on like the owners that doll has had and whether they've taken good care of it. So given the general like yellowing, the fact that it's still really expensive, and that I have an Olivia already, there's like pretty much no reason for me to ever want to buy an Amelia boy unless I suddenly have a lot of money. But even then, it's like I could buy something else, right, with that money. So Amelia, I really like her, him, whatever. But I think the highest that she can go is a B. just because it's like so difficult to get. And then like for Olivia, he is also gonna be a B. So yeah, actually it's lower than Peroth, which I'm kind of surprised by. I thought it would be higher, but I think the fact that the price tag of Volks dolls just kind of like makes me not want to own one sometimes. And the fact that it's really difficult to get, like very troublesome to buy them. Okay, moving on. Number 11, Migidoll Miho. So, I used to have Miho twins. I still have one Miho, and that's Yon. I really like the sculpt. I don't particularly consider him a Grail just because he was always available. Not always, but he was quite easily available for order back when I wanted him around 2011, 2012. And like once I ordered mine, I just never really considered him a Grail, but it was a doll that I really wanted. So I think he's somewhere between an A and a B. I guess it's an A. I'm a bit influenced by the fact that like Sion right now is quite yellowed just because it's old. So sometimes I feel a bit sad when I look at him. It's not very obvious in pictures, but I can see the difference in his face being much yellower than his body. And it's kind of sad, but it's like he's been through so many years with me, so it's like it's not his fault for being yellow, you know. Yeah, just one of those things that you have to accept, I guess. Anyway, the sculpt itself, still A. I won't really need more than one, really. So, like, there's no reason for me to get another one, but, like, I'm still keeping mine. Number 12, Migidoll Jina. So, I did buy a Jina head before. I mean, I did own a Jina before, and I actually bought my Jina before Miho, so I'm not very sure why I'm ranking him here instead. Okay, but anyway, I wanted a Miho, I think, before I wanted a Jina. Maybe? I think I just bought a Jina just because it was available before Miho. But now I find him a bit too pretty boy. But like back in the days when I bought him, it was very suitable for like the character that I had then, which was Ned, who is basically a cross-dresser, so it made sense to have him as pretty as possible. Which is why I went with a Jina. And like now I don't really, I've also since sold my own Jina head, so like I guess it makes more sense for me to rank him lower, right? Because it's like I've had him before and I feel like it's a doll that I don't really need anymore. So I'm gonna put him in E. Next one, Elfdoll Vivien. I've also owned this doll before. It was Tiana back when I had the doll, and I think I fell in love with this doll because of a lot of male Elfdoll Vivien dolls around. And like I really wanted Elfdoll Vivien as a girl, but it was really hard to find a body that was like short enough, meaning like about 60 cm, but like with a sufficiently thick neck so that she doesn't look bobble-headed. And then like I just kind of gave up after a while because it was really difficult. I had mine on the Super Doll old body and she just looked really bobble-headed. And like as much as I liked her, I didn't really have a reason to keep her around after a while. And I think now the sculpting doesn't quite fit in with my taste. I still find the eyes very appealing and the shape of the lips very appealing, but I think the nose is not quite what I like nowadays. I'm gonna put her in E tier. So, number 14 on this list, another doll that I really wanted at one point was a Zaoll Luv. I don't know how to pronounce this company name, Zaoll? Okay, anyway, funnily enough, I own another sculpt before from this company. I used to have a Zaoll Muse head. I never did own a Luv sculpt, even though that was the sculpt that I really wanted. Because like, I really wanted Zaoll Luv like as a girl. And I think in particular I wanted the Dreaming Luv version. But then, while trying to save up to it, just because I had a lot of other doll ones at a point, I just never got to a point where I had enough money to buy her. And then like when a Muse head came up, I was like, for a reasonable price. I was like, sure, I'll buy that one instead. And then like after I sewed the Muse head, I just had no particular reason to buy another Zaoll doll anymore, because honestly their heads are kind of small. It's a bit difficult to fit in with the rest of like my Esthy size crew. His head is like 8 inches, something like that. So yeah, it's like a doll that I find nice to look at, not particularly one that I want to have in my own crew. I'm gonna put Zaoll in F. Yeah, the first one to be really low. But I guess the difference in size is just really difficult for me to ignore. Number 15, Migidoll Cho. So you might notice that it's like a sudden jump back to Migidoll. I really like Migidoll during like 2011 to 2014 or so. And like, I just never bought a Cho head sculpt just because people around me had one and like I saw no reason to buy one. But then like I always admired Chos, but then I was like, I already have a Jina and 2 Mihos and a cynical view. Like I had no reason to buy a Cho on top of all of that. So I just never did. Of course now if you ask me whether I want to own a Migidoll Cho, it's like not particularly, but also like I won't mind painting one. You get what I mean? So like I think he's just gonna go into D tier. Number 16, iOS Anos. I think the only reason why I really wanted this sculpt was because of, I think, Belladonna's Anos. So yeah, the sculpt by itself is not bad, but like I think his eyes are kind of big for what I like nowadays, and like during this whole period there were a lot of dolls that I really like that kind of have the same vibe, which is like I just basically wanted another version of like, I wanted a doll that sort of looked like Sion in terms of style, and like there's just no reason to have so many dolls of that style. So Anos is going to go to F. Next on this list is Migidoll Miho.